The galaxy was ruled by many powerful alien species, each with their own advanced technology and ruthless methods of conquering. But among them all, the most feared was the Typhar Empire. They were unstoppable. Their weapons could destroy entire planets with a single strike, and their fleets filled the stars like a dark cloud. For centuries, they had been expanding their empire, crushing all civilizations in their path. No one had ever stood a chance. The Typhars were ruthless in their approach. They had already conquered dozens of planets, enslaving their inhabitants or wiping them out entirely. Their ships were massive, their soldiers enhanced by science, and their leader, Emperor Crix, was a being of unmatched power. Across the galaxy, the Typhars were seen as the future, and all species knew that resistance was futile. The Typhars were the galaxy's supreme rulers, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop them. And then, they turned their eyes to Earth. Earth had been isolated from the rest of the galaxy, a small, quiet planet in a distant corner of the universe. The humans who lived there were primitive by galactic standards. There were no powerful weapons, no advanced spaceships, no towering cities that could rival those of the galactic empires. Earth was simply a place filled with curious, resourceful people who knew nothing of the grand wars and power struggles beyond their planet. The Cyphers did not expect much from humanity. To them, Earth was just another unimportant planet. Their initial mission was not to invade, but to gather information. They sent a small fleet to scout the planet, expecting to find a weak, defenseless species that would easily fall in line. The Typhars assumed humans would be like the others they had conquered, powerless and ready to submit to their might. But as soon as the Cyphers arrived in Earth's atmosphere, they were met with something unexpected. The humans didn't just stand there, terrified. They didn't bow down in fear or beg for mercy. Instead, the humans fought back. It wasn't much at first. Humans had no advanced weapons, no alien technology to rely on. But they had something that the Cyphers didn't expect: creativity, cunning, and a fierce will to survive. The first small skirmish on Earth was brief, but it was enough to make the Typhar fleet take notice. Using nothing more than basic technology and clever tactics, the humans caused enough damage to force the Typhars to rethink their plan. They quickly realized that this wasn't the kind of species they were used to dealing with. Earth wasn't just a defenseless planet. It was a world where humans were willing to do whatever it took to protect their home. The Cyphers were beginning to question everything they had thought about humanity. This tiny, seemingly insignificant planet had a lot more to offer than they had imagined. And now, they had to decide if they were truly unstoppable, or if humanity would change the game. The Cyphers had never faced anything like humanity before. The first skirmish on Earth had been small, but the humans had shown something no one had expected: courage. Even without advanced weapons or powerful technology, they fought with everything they had. The Cyphers, who had never been challenged before, were left stunned. After the humans' surprise attack, the Typhar fleet quickly regrouped. They called for reinforcements, expecting to crush the humans with overwhelming force. The Typhars were confident in their power, but as they looked at Earth from their ships, something was different. The humans were not afraid. The Typhars didn't understand it. They had conquered so many worlds, wiped out entire civilizations, but these humans weren't like the others. Instead of fleeing, they fought back with everything they had. They didn't have the technology to stand toe-to-toe with the Typhars, but they didn't need it. The humans used their environment to their advantage, setting traps and using the terrain to hide and ambush the alien invaders. The humans, even though they were outmatched, had one thing that Typhars didn't. They had each other. They worked together in ways that Typhars couldn't understand. No one was left behind. Even the youngest and the weakest fought, and the people who couldn't fight worked to protect those who could. The Cyphers had never seen a species this united, this determined. Commander Ral, the leader of the Cypher fleet, stared out from his ship and watched the humans fighting below. He had never encountered anything like this. On other planets, The weak quickly fell. The strong ruled. But Earth was different. The humans had nothing but their determination, and it was enough to make the Cyphers hesitate. We were wrong about them, Rel muttered to himself. These humans are not like the others. Despite the shock, the Cyphers had their orders. They would destroy the humans, no matter the cost. The order came down from Emperor Crix himself. Crush Earth. Leave nothing behind. But the humans wouldn't make it easy. As the Cyphers launched their next wave of attacks, the humans responded with even more clever tricks. They used their technology in unexpected ways, turning the Cyphers' weapons against them. The humans had learned quickly. They studied the alien technology, figuring out how to disrupt the Cyphers' communications, confusing them at every turn. Their surprise tactics forced the Cyphers to change their strategy, and each time they did, the humans found a new way to outsmart them. The battles raged on, and the Cyphers began to realize they had underestimated Earth. These humans weren't just resilient, they were resourceful and unpredictable. Every time the Cyphers thought they had the upper hand, the humans found a way to fight back. It wasn't the weapons they used, it was their will to survive. As the days passed, Commander Rel found himself growing frustrated. Why won't they give up? He asked his officers. They should have fallen by now. But the humans didn't stop. They fought not because they had to, but because they believed they could win. They believed they could protect their home. And the Cyphers were beginning to see something they had never seen before in all their years of conquest. Humanity was not something to be destroyed. It was something that could change everything. The Cyphers were not used to losing. For centuries, they had crushed all other species in their path. But Earth had proven to be different. The humans had surprised them with their resistance, and now the alien fleet was on high alert. Commander Rel, once so confident in their victory, was now frustrated and worried. They needed to end this war, and fast. Emperor Crix, the ruthless leader of the Sci-Fi Empire, watched the humans' resistance closely from his warship. His golden eyes glowed with cold determination. He had never expected a fight like this from a small planet, but he had no intention of allowing the humans to continue defying him. The Cyphers had always been the rulers of the galaxy, and they would not let a small species like humans spoil their legacy. Crix issued a direct command to Rel. It is time to bring the full power of the Empire to bear. Earth will be destroyed. Rel nodded, his face set in a grim expression. The Cyphers had a new plan. They would use their most powerful weapons, their fastest ships, and their deadliest soldiers. They had no time for mercy. The humans would learn just how unstoppable the Cyphers truly were. Rel's fleet moved into position, ready to unleash a wave of destruction. The first wave of attacks came swiftly. The Cyphers bombarded Earth's cities from space with advanced lasers that could slice through mountains. Their warships moved like shadows across the sky, bringing terror wherever they went. The humans, despite their best efforts, were not prepared for the scale of this new assault. But Earth wasn't going down without a fight. As the Cyphers launched their deadly attack, humans responded with their own plan. The world's leaders quickly realized they had to act fast. There was no way they could defeat the Cyphers with conventional weapons, so they had to think differently. The humans would not rely on strength. They would rely on their intelligence. In secret underground labs, scientists worked around the clock to develop a new weapon. They knew they needed something that could turn the tide of the war. A team of engineers and military experts came together to create an EMP device that could disable the Cyphers' ships and communication systems. It was a risky move, but they had no choice. The humans also began to use the land to their advantage. Guerrilla fighters, trained in the art of surprise, ambushed Cypher patrols and sabotaged their equipment. The humans were everywhere, and they struck when the aliens least expected it. Each attack by the humans made the Cyphers question their own superiority. Back on the battlefield, the Cyphers were growing more frustrated by the day. Their advanced technology, which had once been unstoppable, was now being sabotaged and outwitted by these primitive humans. Their forces were stretched thin, and for the first time, the Typhers were not sure they could win this war. Ral ordered a massive assault on one of Earth's major cities, hoping to break the human spirit. The aliens were prepared to burn it all down. But as they prepared to strike, something unexpected happened. The humans had set a trap, and it was ready to spring. The battle on Earth had reached a new level of intensity. The Typhers, with their devastating weapons and powerful warships, launched their final assault on the planet. Earth's cities, once full of life and hope, were now nothing more than crumbling ruins. The humans had fought with everything they had, but it was clear they were outmatched. The Typhers had overwhelming power, and it seemed like nothing could stop them. The skies above Earth were dark with the shadows of Sci-Fi ships, each one capable of wiping out entire cities with a single strike. The air trembled with the sound of explosions as the aliens bombarded the planet from orbit. The humans' defenses, once strong, were now being destroyed one by one. The alien fleet had come prepared, and they showed no mercy. For the first time, the humans felt the full weight of the Typhars' power. Entire cities were wiped out in moments, and the survivors were forced to flee into the underground. There was nowhere left to run. The alien forces had the planet surrounded, and the humans were trapped. Commander Raoul watched the destruction from his ship, his heart hardened by years of conquest. Earth was no different from any other planet he had conquered. He had no sympathy for the humans. In his mind, they were weak, just another species to be crushed under the might of the Typhar Empire. And yet, something about this planet bothered him. The humans refused to give up. No matter how much the Typhars destroyed, the humans kept fighting. Emperor Crix's voice echoed through Raoul's ship. "Finish them, Commander. There is no more mercy. Earth must fall." Raoul hesitated for a moment. The humans had been resilient, yes, but now they were on the brink of extinction. Was there any point in prolonging this? But the Emperor's order was clear. There would be no second chances. Meanwhile, on the ground, the humans were not giving in. Although their cities were destroyed and the skies were filled with alien ships, they still held on to a sliver of hope. The remaining human leaders knew that if they didn't act quickly, all would be lost. They had one last plan, a secret weapon that could turn the tide of the war, an ancient alien device they had uncovered. The device was said to have the power to disrupt the Cypher's communication systems, rendering their ships and weapons useless for a short time. It was a dangerous plan, one that could cost them everything, but it was their only chance. As the Typhar forces continued to devastate Earth, a small group of humans, scientists, soldiers, and engineers raced against time to activate the device. They knew the aliens would be coming for them soon. They had to succeed, or humanity's fight would be over. The alien forces were closing in, and the humans were running out of time. Desperation filled the air, but so did determination. The humans were not ready to die. Not yet. They would do whatever it took to survive. The battle for Earth had reached its darkest hour. The Typhars had nearly destroyed everything. Their ships hovered in the sky, raining destruction on the planet below. Cities lay in ruins, and the once bustling streets were empty, filled only with the sounds of explosions and the hum of alien ships. Humanity was on the brink of extinction, but deep beneath the surface, in the hidden underground labs, there was still a glimmer of hope. In a secret facility, a group of the world's best scientists and military leaders worked furiously. They had found something, an ancient alien artifact, buried long before the Typhars ever set their sights on Earth. It was said to hold incredible power, a technology so advanced that even the Typhars did not fully understand it. This was humanity's last hope. The artifact was small, shaped like a crystal, glowing faintly with a strange energy. No one knew exactly how it worked, but the scientists had studied it for weeks. After many failed attempts, they had finally figured out one thing. It could disrupt the Cypher's technology, including their weapons and communications. But there was a problem. The device was unstable, and using it could have unpredictable consequences. There was no guarantee it would work, but the humans had no other choice. General Sarah Evans, one of the leaders of the resistance, stood before the artifact. She looked at the group of scientists and engineers working around her, their faces tired but determined. "This is it," she said, her voice steady. "If we don't stop them now, we won't get another chance." One of the scientists, Dr. Lewis Carter, stepped forward. "We've figured out how to activate it, but we need to get it to one of their control stations. If we can disrupt their communication network, we can blind their fleet for a short time. That might give us a fighting chance." Sarah nodded. "How much time do we have?" "We estimate maybe 10 minutes, Dr. Carter said, looking at the clock on the wall. "If it works, the Scifiers will be forced to rely on their backup systems. It won't be enough to win the war, but it could turn the tide." Sarah turned to her team. "We'll need to move quickly. We don't know how long it'll take before they realize what we've done." A team of elite soldiers, led by Captain Ryan Brooks, was ready to transport the device to the Sci-Fi control center. They would need to travel through enemy lines, where the Scifiers had already begun sweeping the last few human holdouts from the surface. It would be dangerous, and the chances of survival were slim. But they had no choice. As they prepared to leave, Sarah looked at each of them, feeling the weight of the responsibility on her shoulders. "This is for Earth, for every life we're trying to save." The soldiers nodded, their faces grim but determined. They knew that if they failed, humanity would be lost. If they succeeded, it might give them a chance to fight back. Outside, the Sci-Fi warships loomed in the sky, ready to wipe out the last remnants of human resistance. But in that underground lab, hidden away from the aliens' eyes, humanity's last hope was ready to be unleashed. The small team of soldiers, led by Captain Ryan Brooks, had only one mission: to deliver the ancient alien device to the Sci-Fi control center and activate it. Time was running out, and the Scifiers were closing in on every human stronghold. The pressure was intense, but there was no turning back. They had to succeed, or Earth would fall. The team moved quickly through the ruined streets of what had once been a thriving city. The air was thick with smoke from the burning buildings, and the ground beneath them shook with the distant explosions from the Sci-Fi bombardment. The enemy was relentless, but the humans were determined to fight to the end. Ryan led the way, his hand tightly gripping his rifle. He had been through countless battles, but this mission felt different. It wasn't just about surviving. It was about saving the future of humanity. He knew the risks. If they failed, not only would they all die, but Earth would be lost forever. The Scifiers would destroy everything. As they moved closer to the Sci-Fi control center, the team encountered more alien patrols. The Scifiers were everywhere, scanning the ruins for any survivors. The humans had to stay hidden, relying on stealth and quick thinking to avoid detection. Captain Brooks signaled his team to stop, and they crouched behind the wreckage of a fallen building. "Not far now," Ryan whispered, checking his watch. "We have less than 30 minutes. We need to move fast." Private Jessica Lee, one of the soldiers, glanced nervously around. "What if we don't make it in time? What if the device doesn't work?" Ryan's eyes met hers. "We don't have the luxury of doubt. We do this or we die trying. We can't let them win." They pressed on, moving as quickly as possible through the enemy-controlled city. Every step was a risk. Every sound could alert the Scifiers to their presence. But they kept going, driven by the weight of the mission and the fate of the planet on their shoulders. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the entrance to the Sci-Fi control center. It was heavily guarded, but the team was prepared. They had to move fast. Ryan and his team split into two groups, flanking the guards and taking them out silently. It was dangerous work, but they were trained for this. Once inside, they had to find the central hub where they could activate the alien device. The facility was dark, lit only by the eerie glow of Sci-Fi technology. The walls were lined with strange machines and control panels. Every second counted. Ryan made his way to the control station, and Dr. Lewis Carter, the scientist who had helped develop the device, rushed to assist him. Together, they connected the alien artifact to the Scifi system. The machine hummed to life, its energy surging through the cables and into the heart of the control center. As they worked, an alarm blared through the building. The Scifers had discovered their presence. The countdown had begun. Ryan's heart raced as he knew they were running out of time. "We need to go now," Ryan shouted. But before they could leave, the Scifers stormed the building. The humans had done it. The device was activated. But would it be enough? The countdown was ticking. Every second felt like a lifetime. Inside the Sci-Fi control center, the hum of the alien technology grew louder as the ancient device powered up. Ryan Brooks and his team knew the mission was a success, at least for now. But the danger was far from over. The Scifers were closing in, and they had to get out before the enemy trapped them inside. Ryan held his rifle tightly as he scanned the dark corridors. The sound of footsteps echoed through the building. The Scifers had already discovered their presence, and now the entire facility was on high alert. The alarms blared, warning of the breach. The team didn't have much time to escape. "Move out," Ryan shouted, signaling to his team. Private Jessica Lee led the way, her eyes sharp as she darted around corners, checking for any Scifi patrols. Captain Brooks kept a close watch on their rear, his senses heightened. They had to stay one step ahead of the aliens. The Scifers were fast, but humans were clever. They moved swiftly through the halls, staying low and quiet. The mission was far from over. As they reached the main entrance, a loud explosion shook the building. The human sabotage had taken out one of the Scifers' main communication relays, but the blast also set off a chain reaction, causing the structure to collapse around them. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and dust filled the air. "Keep moving," Ryan ordered, pushing forward through the chaos. They were so close to the exit. But then, a loud voice rang out from behind them. It was the Scifi commander, Rel. He was furious, and the humans knew they were in for a fight. "I will not let you escape." Rel's voice echoed through the hall. "You will pay for this." The Scifi soldiers appeared from the shadows, weapons raised and ready to fire. The humans turned to face them, knowing they had no choice but to fight. Captain Ryan Brooks raised his weapon and aimed at the nearest alien soldier. "Hold your ground," he shouted to his team. The battle was fierce. The humans, though outnumbered and outgunned, fought with everything they had. They used the environment to their advantage, ducking behind debris and firing from cover. The Scifers, though powerful, were not prepared for the humans' determination. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their future. Ryan fired at the advancing Scifers, his shots precise. He knew every shot could mean life or death. The Scifi soldiers retaliated with laser fire, but the humans moved fast, dodging and taking down the enemy one by one. In the midst of the chaos, Dr. Lewis Carter, the scientist who had helped activate the device, was working frantically. He had one job left: to trigger the emergency exit that would give the team a way out. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he typed into the control panel. "Just a little longer," Dr. Carter shouted, his hands shaking. Finally, the doors to the exit opened, and the team rushed through, with the Scifi soldiers hot on their heels. The device had worked. The Scifers' communication systems were down, and their weapons were disabled. The human resistance now had a fighting chance. But the battle wasn't over yet. The humans had struck back, and the Scifers were beginning to realize that Earth was not as easy a conquest as they had thought. The escape from the Scifi control center was only the beginning. Captain Ryan Brooks and his team had barely made it out alive, but their mission was far from over. The ancient alien device had worked, temporarily disabling the Scifers' weapons and communications, but the fight was far from finished. The Scifi fleet, though disorganized for now, was still powerful and closing in fast. As Ryan and his team ran toward the underground bunkers, they could see the sky above filled with the menacing shadows of Sci-Fi ships. The bombings had stopped, but the Sci-Fis were regrouping, preparing for their final strike. Time was running out. "We've got to make this count," Ryan said, his voice grim but resolute. "We've got one chance. If we don't hit them hard now, this war is over." General Sarah Evans, who had been directing the human resistance from a command center, watched the chaos unfold on her screen. She had seen her people fight with incredible bravery, but she knew the real battle had yet to come. The Sci-Fis had underestimated humanity's will to survive, but they were far from defeated. They just needed the right push. "Captain Brooks, we need you to bring the fight to them. We have an opening," she said through the radio. Ryan nodded, determination flashing in his eyes. "Understood, General. We're on it." With the communication disruption still in place, the Sci-Fis were scrambling. They were trying to re-establish control, but the damage to their systems was enough to give the humans a chance to strike back. Ryan and his team, now joined by a few other resistance groups, set up a makeshift command post. They needed to be smart. There was no time to waste. Private Jessica Lee handed Ryan a map. "The main Sci-Fi fleet is near the mountains. If we attack them there, we can disable their remaining ships, but we'll need to move fast." "We don't have the luxury of time," Ryan said, looking around at his team. "We hit them hard, fast, and we don't stop until it's over." The human resistance prepared their last, desperate assault. They had no choice but to strike now or risk losing everything. Ryan and his team, along with the others, moved quickly toward the Sci-Fi fleet's location. The battle ahead would be fierce, but the humans were ready. They had faced impossible odds before, and now they were fighting for the survival of their home. As they approached the mountain base where the Sci-Fi fleet was regrouping, the humans set up explosive charges around the perimeter. Ryan gave one last look at his team, his expression filled with a mix of hope and determination. "We do this together," he said. The team nodded, their faces set in resolve. This would be their final stand. They moved silently, knowing that every second counted. The explosions they set would disable the Sci-Fi fleet, and this time, they would take back their planet. The first explosion shook the ground, signaling the start of the final battle. The Sci-Fi ships, caught off guard, struggled to regroup. The humans took their chance and launched a full assault, using the terrain to their advantage. The Sci-Fis fought back with everything they had, but humanity was no longer a weak, defenseless species. They were united, determined, and ready to win. The battle raged on, and the Sci-Fis, for the first time in centuries, were not certain of victory. The humans had turned the tide. They were no longer just survivors, they were fighters, and the galaxy was about to learn what humanity was truly capable of. The battle had been fierce, the sky above Earth lit by the explosions and laser fire from both sides. The humans, though vastly outnumbered and outgunned, had fought with everything they had. And now, it seemed like their efforts were paying off. The Sci-Fis, once so confident of their victory, were beginning to falter. Their fleet, still powerful, but now disoriented and crippled by the earlier disruptions, was struggling to regain control. The humans had created chaos, striking at their weakest points and exploiting every advantage. Ryan Brooks, leading his team, watched as the Sci-Fi ships above began to pull back, retreating into the darkness of space. The humans had done it. They had forced the Sci-Fis to retreat. "We've done it," Ryan said, breathing a sigh of relief. But even in his relief, he knew that the war was far from over. The Sci-Fis weren't giving up so easily. The fight for Earth was won, but the future of humanity in the galaxy was still uncertain. The team, covered in dirt and dust, moved back to their command center. Their faces were tired, but there was a spark of victory in their eyes. They had taken the fight to the Sci-Fis and won, something no one had thought possible. General Sarah Evans, who had been coordinating the resistance from a hidden bunker, was speaking into a communication device, coordinating with other human forces around the world. "Report," she said firmly. "Sir, that Sci-Fi fleet is pulling back. They're regrouping, but they've been badly damaged. It seems like they're trying to reorganize for another attack," one of the commanders said over the line. "Good," Sarah replied, her voice steady. "But they won't get another chance. We've got them on the run." Ryan listened, his mind already focused on the next steps. This victory, though significant, was just the beginning. The humans had shown the galaxy that they were not a species to be ignored, that they could fight back against even the most powerful alien forces. But the Ciphers were not the only threat in the galaxy, and humanity's place in the galaxy was still uncertain. Despite the victory, Ryan couldn't help but feel the weight of what was to come. The Ciphers might have retreated for now, but their empire was vast. The galaxy was full of unknowns, and humanity had made its mark. But would it be enough to ensure their safety? As he looked at his team, the soldiers who had fought beside him through the chaos, he knew one thing for certain. Earth had not just survived, it had become a symbol of resistance. The Ciphers had learned a lesson they would never forget. "We've got a long road ahead," Ryan said quietly. "But we're not alone. Not anymore." The humans had fought back. Against all odds, they had beaten a force that was once considered unstoppable. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity proved that even the most powerful invaders could be defeated by determination, unity, and the will to survive. The Ciphers had retreated for now, but the war was far from over. Humanity's place in the galaxy had been established, and they had just made the first step toward becoming a force to be reckoned with. The Ciphar fleet had retreated, but the war was far from over. Commander Ral, his once confident stance now broken, stood at the command center of his warship, staring out into space. The retreat was humiliating. He had underestimated humanity, and now the entire Ciphar empire would feel the consequences. The humans had proven they were not to be taken lightly. Back on Earth, the mood was different. The survivors, soldiers, civilians, leaders, had witnessed a victory they once thought impossible. Though the damage was immense, and many had lost loved ones, there was a new feeling in the air. The humans had stood against the most powerful alien force the galaxy had ever known, and they had won. Ryan Brooks, now back in the command center, looked out over the destroyed landscape of Earth. It was a bittersweet victory. Cities were in ruins, and millions had lost their lives, but they had beaten the Ciphars. They had sent a clear message. Humanity would not be defeated. "Do you think they'll return?" Jessica Lee asked, her voice filled with concern. Her face was smeared with dirt, but her eyes still held a spark of hope. Ryan turned to her, his expression determined. "If they do, we'll be ready. We've shown the galaxy what humans are capable of." As they continued to rebuild, the world's leaders gathered. They had already begun the long process of recovery, but this war had changed everything. No longer were they a small, unnoticed planet in the vast galaxy. Humanity had made its mark. Other species, both allies and enemies, now looked at Earth with a new respect. General Sarah Evans addressed the leaders in a global broadcast. "We have won the first battle, but the war is not over. The Ciphers may have retreated for now, but they are not the only threat out there. We must prepare for what comes next, for the galaxy is vast, and there are many unknowns. But we are no longer the helpless species we once were. We will stand strong and face whatever comes." The humans were now focused on one goal: unity. Countries that once fought among themselves now came together with a shared purpose. They worked together to rebuild, sharing technology and knowledge to restore what had been lost. The war had left scars, but it had also brought humanity closer than ever before. As weeks turned into months, the human resistance movement became a symbol across the galaxy. Other species, seeing what the humans had accomplished, began to view Earth differently. The humans were no longer seen as a weak, insignificant species. They were a force to be reckoned with. Captain Ryan Brooks, now hailed as a hero, stood at the front of a memorial for those who had fallen. The names of the lost were engraved in stone, a reminder of the price humanity had paid for its survival. But even in the face of such loss, there was hope. The galaxy had learned that humanity could not be broken. And as Ryan looked out into the stars, he knew one thing for certain. Humanity had changed the game. They had not only survived, they had proven that they could thrive, even in the face of the most overwhelming odds. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Earth was no longer just a planet in the corner of the galaxy. It was a symbol of strength, unity, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. This part closes the story with a hopeful outlook for humanity's future. The victory over the Typhers has marked a new era, where Earth has earned its place in the galaxy. Let me know if you need any adjustments